Dearest gentle listeners, you are listening to the Ladies Bridgerton, the talk of the ton. We are your effervescent hosts, your neighbourhood-friendly Kiwi, Tash from Middle-earth, New Zealand.
And Patty, Regency romance enthusiast, currently writing her high vibe siren.
Settle down onto your favourite settee as we delve into the lives of the elite and illustrious ladies, lords, and royalty of the ton. This Bridgerton podcast is two friends talking romance, symbolism, Easter eggs, and deep diving into the connections of our favourite characters. We cover both book, TV series, and notable social media, and therefore will contain spoilers.
Tangent Squad. Today, chat about being seen and being blind. Sibling rivalries stem from blindness to each other's motives and intentions, while Brimsley proves devotion makes you see a person more openly than they sometimes see themselves. We also see Francesca navigating being so openly seen as a prize as her love triangle officially formed.
Now we must make haste into today's episode. Now, in previous episodes, we had been kind of trying to stick to one pivotal scene per episode, but we do have a few kind of, our main portion of this episode is going to be Bridgerton House and Francesca's love triangle with Lord Samadani and John, my R.I.P. John. Mm-hmm. But we also have Danbury House and the Queen to kind of get through first as well. So it is going to be a multi-parter today. And I'm hoping it's not going to go too long because this is our second recording for the day. So
and it's already 11:06 in Patty.
In Patty time, yes. So Lord Marcus Anderson is telling tales that he thinks is rather funny, or like my book says.
So do the servants, to be clear.
But it just reminded me of the book that I was talking about before that I brought for my husband on his first Father's Day. My dad thinks he's funny. And
I think this truly shows the difference between being under the thumb of the rules of the ton and having that more lackadaisical life in the country, because he interacts with his servants on a more friendly level, a more personal level, and he's doing the same with Danbury's servants, and she is still trying to maintain that separation, and she's visibly frustrated with him.
I feel like she had that with
and her servant.
What was her name? Not Hope.
Coral.
Coral, thank you. Coral. She had that relationship with Coral, and I feel like losing Coral for whatever reason also made her cut off that part of herself that she's like, if I can't have Coral, if I can't have Lord Ledger, like that's it. I'm done. I'm not letting people in.
Well, and we also don't know why her son, who would very much be an adult at this point, has not taken over the estate. Mm-hmm. And there might be that separation also because she has to maintain an authority that really technically is not hers in the ton.
Well, I wonder whether he just prefers the country. Sort of, there are suddenly people in the gentry that prefer country living because they don't have to, he may have married someone.
Her kids are very far away. They're thrown all over the earth. Again, makes me think of Queen Charlotte asking her, when she says that she's going to have a visitor, she goes, do you need your queen to banish them to the farthest realms of the kingdom? Mm-hmm. At this point in time, England's kingdom had lost the United States by this point, still was very vast. Mm-hmm. And her children, all it's ever mentioned is that they are spread out amongst the kingdom. And I almost wonder if to maintain
she's going to send them over to Australia.
She has asked the queen to, keep her kids away. But she's telling her, no, this isn't as important. It doesn't require your help because it's her brother and she knows she has to.
Yeah. So he's telling this tale and you can tell that Lady D is like, cut the shit, little brother. Like, or he's younger than her, right?
Yeah, she was
by a number of years.
On the eve when she was getting married, which she was still a child. She was 15 or 14, 15 or 16 when she was married off.
Pretty young.
He was 10 because he said I was 10.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, she has zero tolerance for this man. Like this is kind of like the Lady D from the books, and it's not very often that we see her be that short, sharp, like to the point, no fucks given.
It's the exact same look she gives Anthony with sniffs. Kate.
Yes.
Like men. Oh my God,
Men are
Why are
disgusting
men
pigs.
like this? Yeah.
Yes.
Why are men like this? Yeah, it's the exact same like admonishment, but I would expect nothing less because you are a
Yes.
man.
You are not my Lord Ledger. That is Colin Bridgerton, sir.
Yeah.
Well, I think she knows that he is nothing like his granddad. That there's no resemblance between them. It is Colin and Benedict. That is Lord Ledger.
Yeah. And
Um,
I think that's why she has the affinity for Benedict. And I
but
think just like everyone else, she's let Colin because Colin was always hovering around Penelope. So
yes.
he didn't actually.
So she berates him, saying, "Before you consume all the mirth in this room, you must tell us to what we owe the pleasure of your return to London, aka you are taking away my happiness by being here, and
You were
when are you
sucking the
leaving?"
vibe, dude.
Yeah.
You were sucking the vibe out
But
of the room.
this lady does not mince words. Like, this is absolutely ton polite coded. Get the fuck out.
Yeah. What is your business? Let's have it done. I'm tired of you being here already.
Like when as teachers we have to write report cards very specifically. It cannot be your child is the bane of my existence and the object of no teacher's desire. Like, like
Right.
it is instead your child is rather rambunctious.
Your child does not wish to be called upon. They never raise their hand. They
Do not.
How many teacher euphemisms can we come up with?
Honestly, I
Only
could write an entire report card like in ton language of like yeah. But I think that
your child's heart is always making the head. I killed Tosh. She's dying.
Oh, the head spins are so gnarly. No.
No Toshas were harmed in the recording of this podcast.
That is lies, people. She 100% is harming me. Huh. I got the head spins and all. No, I need a little bit longer.
I think that's our next YouTube. That's a YouTube video we could come up with real quick. Report cards written by Bridgerton fans.
That would be really funny, actually.
Your grades are A, B, C, D, E,
F, U.
And I need a G. No, I need a G. It just seems more orderly to give you one of every letter.
No, because the song A, B, C, D, E, F, U.
I know, but
Yeah.
the children A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Yeah, I know.
And you have every grade. A through F are all grades. G's not. So G, oh, you got a good in gym. I needed a G.
F is fresh out of fucks.
Okay.
Which is exactly what Lady D is right now. Oh.
Right. She is completely out of the fucks for her little bro. And as someone who has a little bro, I can say that happens.
Oh, you know what? If I ever saw Adjua Ando wearing a shirt saying fresh out of fucks, I think I would die of happiness.
Adjua, make it so.
Please do. Please put that out into the universe. Someone send her that shirt.
That needs to be like the whole Got Milk campaign with the t-shirts, all the Got Milk t-shirts. Yeah. I need to see a campaign of Johnny Bailey doing Got Milk, Nicola's wearing her Got Milk, everybody else. But then when you get to Adjua, it's like fresh out of fucks.
Yeah. Yes. So Marcus finally decides to explain that he has grown lonely out on his country estate and there is a lack of ladies out there. I think that Lady D definitely takes this as he's wanting to sow his wild oats, not find one woman to settle down with. And I can see where she kind of got this impression from. Like, he didn't really state, like I've grown lonesome on my own. I'm ready to have my second act. He very much, I don't think he was implying it, but I think it just kind of came off a little bit of like, I'm here to be the Ton's new fuckboy.
Right. And with they're both kind of blind to the other person's intentions. And, like I said in the intro, because she's blinded to his good intentions because she's holding that grudge.
Yes.
So she's seeing that he wants to be a rake instead of that he is here to seek a wife. Mm-hmm. But he also is not being forthcoming because he's blind to the person that she has become, because he still sees her as the formidable teenager that she was so strong, and she was going to run off and start her own life. And he was a little afraid of her, which he admits later. So he believes she's still completely that formidable person. And Lady Danbury is pretty formidable, but she's also been loved in the right ways and has gained a lot of grace and humanity. And she's able to understand a lot of people where they are, and he doesn't see that part of her. Like, they're both, even though they're siblings, they couldn't be further apart. And I really like that this scene is juxtaposed against Brimsley and the Queen, who are not related in the least, but have spent so much time together that they, Brimsley just sees her so clearly and so perfectly.
Yeah.
And it just shows that really our chosen family, and I mean, she didn't choose Brimsley, but Brimsley chose her.
I feel
our
like
chosen family almost sees us and loves us in a way that sometimes our own family can't ever.
I kind of wonder whether Brimsley was chosen for the Queen because somewhere higher up did know that he was gay, and that's like kind of like the eunuchs that were originally chosen to take care of princesses, because then we knew that their lineage was never being sullied by anyone else, because obviously it wasn't, nothing could happen. I wonder whether Brimsley was chosen because he was never going to be a threat to the king.
I think Brimsley was chosen because Reynolds was the right-hand man to the king, and the king knew he couldn't be in the same place with her. And Reynolds said he had a friend who was already in service, who wants to be promoted, who wants to, has ambition, and they could communicate. And he saw this as a way where people would see them together, but nobody would think anything of it because he was on a service from the king. And so they would be able to meet up privately. But it's in, the assumption is that the king and Charlotte are going to live separately their whole lives. But the king took to Charlotte right away. So he wants, he would want to have somebody, and even if it wasn't Charlotte, like he hadn't met her yet. Brimsley was in place because he wanted somebody that was close and trusted to his person. Yeah. Communicate the goings on of the Queen when the Queen became the Queen. The Queen could have been anyone, but they had this in place so that he would know what was going on.
Yeah, I do think that, I mean, the Dowager Queen, Augusta, was pretty astute when it came to a lot of things. So I wouldn't put it past him as to why he was chosen, because he jumped ranks. Like, I remember from the books, he went from being quite a lowly staff member and he really jumped up to that position. And so he's like, this is fantastic. Like, I've gone from like being the bottom of the tier to being the top dog. Like, the only person that's above me is Reynolds. And he absolutely resented Reynolds for being higher than him.
His superior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But going back to Lady D and Marcus, I think when you have feelings about someone, it skews how you interpret what they are saying. When you have a really fixed and rigid idea of who someone is.
I don't know that at all. I think it goes both ways. I don't think it has to be negative feelings. I think it's when you have positive feelings for someone. Yeah. Like your feelings of it as a human being absolutely read into how you perceive somebody saying something. That's why so much of our trauma from childhood, it's really prevalent right now, that what we experience in our formative years, which formative years are birth until about age 6, they're saying. Yeah. When you form attachments and everything, really do play out our entire adult life. Yes. And I think that if you, you and I view each other in a very positive way, and we do not look at each other, like you say something, I don't immediately take it in a negative way necessarily, but we do have our moments. But when we have those moments and we communicate it, we find out because of this past experience,
something underlying.
There's an underlying thing. And I think that when, obviously I use you as an objective third party. I use Kay as an objective third party when I'm having communications with a person that I have very positive feelings for. And I want to see, like, would a reasonable person, because I honestly don't believe myself to be a reasonable person in this situation.
Just not objective.
I'm invested.
Yes.
I want a specific outcome. So I'm not reasonable. I am not the person that should be looking at these words and deciding exactly what they mean.
Mm-hmm.
So I ask, an objective third party. And I think that in this case, the both of them have expectations. They have lives that they've lived.
Yeah.
Danbury is very untrusting of men.
Yes.
And although this is a brother and he did a little thing at 10 years old, think about that. He was 10. She knew he was 10, but she's holding him accountable like he was grown and knew exactly what he was doing because he's a man and because she's been hurt by just about every man she's ever encountered in her life.
Yes. Yep. And then she's grown up.
Taking that over. I'm just saying.
Oh, no. I very much, I feel the same. And I think with us, when we have any, and we've never had a fight, we've never had arguments or anything like that. It is literally like the smallest of like, we may have interpreted each other's words wrong because obviously the internet. The word, like when you're typing, there's no context, there's no intonation or anything in your voice. So, but we communicate. And I think Lord Marcus Anderson is actually a really good communicator, the way that he communicates with Violet. But I think Lady D, even if he were to communicate, I don't think she's in a place yet where she's willing or ready to accept what he is saying is truth. So I think she has to go on her own journey. And I think Violet really, really helps her to go on that journey. But I think even though he's a good communicator, she's not there yet. She's not a good communicator.
Right. And I think it falls to this too, like your formative experiences with a person, like, don't you feel like, think about your brother. Like when you think about your brother, what age are you? Are you the age you are now when you think about your brother?
No, I'm a child.
No, you're a child. So you are whatever age you are. He's whatever age he is. So Lord Anderson is sitting in a room with his 14, 15-year-old sister, and she is sneering at her incorrigible 10-year-old brother who is trying to get all the attention in the room.
Yeah.
They're blind to the fact that they're both adults now, that they have all these experiences and they might just be different people. And we see that a lot. Like, I mean, that plays into our main storyline because Colin at first he tries to separate Penn, the friend, and Penelope, his future wife. And then he's trying to separate Penelope, the woman he loves, from Lady Whistledown, the woman he despises. And in the end, the way it all works out is he met all these women become one person. He realizes it's one person, not realizes, he knows it's one person, but he's able to reconcile her. So, and that's why we're always going to see, like we were talking about in the one pod episode, how Penelope and Colin and Eloise are never going to age because they're always going to be children together. And I think that's what we're seeing here. We're very much seeing a sibling conversation that sounds adult, but it's not.
Well, and I do wonder whether that Lady Whistledown that is being read kind of in this time period also sort of plays into this scene as well, because it says, when the heart and head are in conflict, every choice may feel like agony. One person in whom thoughts and feelings are united is Her Majesty Queen Charlotte. But when we look at that line, the heart and the head, Lady Danbury knows that nothing that her brother is doing right now is nefarious. He is not being cruel. He is not making jokes at anyone's expense. He is just being jovial and lighthearted. And I think she resents how lighthearted he is in nature because, as she said, she had to make herself fierce. She had to make herself terrifying so that no one would ever come for her again. No one would ever make her feel the way that she felt as a little kid and as a wife married to Lord Danbury. Like, she had to be terrifying.
Do you think she doesn't get his lightheartedness because she didn't get to have that?
That's what I'm saying. Like, she's resenting the fact that he gets to be fun and he gets to be playful and he gets to be silly and jovial, and she isn't. She has hardened herself. She's a metapod from Pokemon. She doesn't get to, she's not spreading her wings and flying yet like a little butterfree. She is still in that hardened cocoon where she had to harden to protect herself. That was a great metaphor, Pokemon. Thank you. Very, very good.
And it also fits into the whole armor, having your armor on too long that it rusts.
Yes.
Lady Danbury's had her armor on for a long time.
She hardened the cocoon too hard, and now she doesn't know how to break out to be a butterfly. And if she stays in there, that becomes your esophagus, not esophagus.
I'm picturing that. My very literal brain is picturing that right now.
My brain was like, That was
Ew.
not the word you were looking for.
File that back into anatomy. Where's my metaphor file? Okay, there it is. No.
No, I need it. She is not in an esophagus, but I am right now. I'm stuck in
Did you
my
mean
own.
sarcophagus?
I did. Yes, I mean, there's such similar words. This cold is gonna kill me. Keep in mind, I've only had 9 hours of sleep in 2 days.
Don't say things like that out in the world. Do not manifest that.
What? Being tired?
Well, no, don't say things like this cold is gonna kill me.
Oh, no.
Like, don't say that stuff out loud.
She'll be right, mate.
I foresee you having a very good night's sleep tonight.
One can only
Seriously,
hope.
try the lung percussion. I did it. I did that for my mom for years.
I've also got one of those, the massage guns that got like the little ball on the end of it.
Yeah, I have one of those.
Yeah, I've been getting Seven to do that on my back, like right over where my lungs are to try and break it up and just because my muscles are so like every muscle in my back, in my sides, like in my stomach, everything is just aching from having like being coughing so long.
That's what it means to be racked with coughing. Like your body hurts.
Oh yeah. My whole body is down struggle town at the moment with it. Like obviously I didn't get any like head and flu cold symptoms, but then I did get the migraines because I coughed so hard that it causes migraines, which is super fun. But that's okay. Yeah. Just the joys of having little kids that bring home germs. Okay.
And the joys of having a form of asthma. You had full on asthma. I have allergy related asthma.
Yeah.
So when my allergies get bad, then I get asthma, then I get bronchitis, and you're dealing with bronchitis, like very similar.
Yeah. I grew out of my asthma when I was maybe 14 years old, but whenever I'm sick, like this level of sick, it then just completely takes a hold of me. So I've been like on steroid inhalers and then other inhaler, like it's the whole thing at the moment. Let's jump over to the Queen and talk a little bit more about the palace scene where Lady Whistledown voices over as a little Pomeranian is jumping through hoops. And I'm like, well, that sounds just about right. Everyone's trying to jump through hoops to impress the Queen. So
that little deranged bunny's actually hopping.
When the heart and head are in conflict, every choice may feel like agony. One person in whom thought and feeling are united is Her Majesty Queen Charlotte. After their meeting at Hawkins Ball, it seems the Queen's sparkler, Miss Francesca Bridgerton, may indeed be poised to become the new Marquess Samadani. This was like the most placating piece of writing that I think Penelope has ever written. Placating Penelope.
Yes, because I mean, if we think about what I think this is our first time seeing Penelope was living her own life, so she kind of phoned in the Whistledown. Because did Francesca look like she was poised to become the next Marquess Samadani from what we saw at that ball? No. She disappeared. She straight up was like, peace out, Girl Scout, and disappeared for a while. So if Pen was on her game and not living her own life, she would have observed her exit, and that would have been what was in Whistledown.
I do kind of feel sorry.
Queen.
I do feel sorry for these men. The Prince and Lord Samadani, they just get instructed that these are the women that you are going to propose to, and they don't really get a choice in it. Not that they don't actually seem upset by it. They're like, well, these seem like nice enough women. So like, yeah, sure, I'll go for it. And like, I think Lord Samadani, we'll get into this a little bit more, but like, he seems to genuinely connect with her family, and like, he looks like he could just fit in happily with them.
Right. And I think Samadani is more apt to do it. I think the Prince was actually looking for someone, and he actually genuinely liked Daphne.
Yes.
So I don't include him because it was pre Queen Charlotte.
Yes.
But Samadani, I think Samadani's going along for the ride because in Queen Charlotte, she found a woman to marry her son. They end up having the heir, and everything worked out. And she said, you're going to marry this person. And then they were like, oh, we're not, because really our brother has to say it. And she goes, you're going to let him marry her now, aren't you? And he goes, yeah, whatever she says. So she formed a match, not in a meddling way. She was very controlling, but it ended up working out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Samadani is seeing like, okay, the queen did this before. She's really good at this. This is a good match. And it is on paper two
Mm.
people who both have 8 kids or seven siblings. They're eight. But they just, because of those similar interests, similar experiences, but
Yes.
they're different personalities.
Yes.
They viewed that in a different way. So they
Yes.
want different things. So the queen's on the right path, but she's not quite to the level of a meddling society
Yes.
mama yet.
Like in theory, they should have been an excellent match. And what I find interesting is that Lord John is the first partner of one of the siblings that we don't see Francesca being super hyped about. And like, not like, oh, what about Lord John? You know, like in first season, she was, always asking, what about the Duke? And so was Violet. Second season, what about the sister? Third season, Pen. And I know that because obviously they are meant to be the main love interests that we're meant to be focusing on.
But her astute moment with Francesca and Lord John is when they were sitting there in silence, and
Yes.
Eloise is like, oh, rejecting his suitor, like total silence.
Yes.
I never even thought of that. And Hyacinth goes, they might be enjoying themselves.
Yes.
Like that was her astute thing regarding John in that moment.
We just don't get the same reaction. And I swear that Hyacinth is my go-to of like, yeah, this is how we know this is the person, because like Hyacinth is always the first one to like pick it out.
Yeah. But she was also very caught up with Samadani. She thought he was very dashing because she said her name.
Yeah. Because sorry, that was my fault. I put that tangent there, and I was like, no, we're still talking about the Queen. Pomeranians. Although they did say that next season we're going to get even more Pomeranians, and I'm like, how many more Pomeranians can we get?
But I wonder if that was like the biggest gift he gave her. Like that was the most thoughtful, well thought out gift, because he gave her this animal. It was a rescue because that dude was like doing experiments and stuff. So if we are following the thought process that the king dies, what if she gets more dogs because she's grieving and she wants more of these animals that he thought she would love and she had come to love because he had given them to her?
She wants like a zoo of Pomeranians.
Well, I'll tell you, I started out with one dog at one point and now I got 3.
I started out with the dog and then I got a husband and a kid, and honestly, don't know which one's easier. But the Queen is like tickled pink with this Lady Whistledown article. Like, yes, my intelligence and prowess as a matchmaker is finally being acknowledged. Who she kind of reminds me of in this moment? Like a little bit of the matchmakers from Mulan, that like that's their job is to matchmake.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that the reason she doesn't catch that this isn't entirely accurate is because we did see Francesca with Lord Samadani at this ball, for some of it. And then obviously when she came back in, she probably connected with him again. And so the Queen thinks she is successful because yes, they were seen together. But after her ball, and it was quite clear, she did not take the lemonade. Like it was an abject failure. And then, Penn writes that, oh, maybe she's, going to be, Lady Sterling, or she's going after Lord Sterling, Earl of Kilmartin. And that seems like a fine match. And it's so passé that she's like, because she's not wanting to poke at the Queen. She's trying to be placating, but here it doesn't work because this is where she would normally throw a barb out and she doesn't. So I think the Queen doesn't see it in this scene though, because she is it's praise. She's praising her.
And I said in my notes, I said this should have alerted the Queen even earlier that something was going on with Lady Whistledown's personal life, that she is being so passive, because like the second that she sees
so
it,
vague.
so vague, because we see the second that she does it in the next article, that was when the Queen was like, aha, I've got you. Like one time I'll let slip. Yep, maybe you just see my prowess. And then the second time she's like, something's going on. Something's changed.
And it's like, and here it's another like seeing a person for who they really are, because there are times that she compliments the Queen, but she sees the Queen as, and Penn just loves to write, she's not really looking at the Queen as an adversary, but I think that they play a game with each other. And, the Queen sees her as a like playing a game with, like chess. Like they're playing chess against each other and it's your move. And Penelope is always talked in Lady Whistledown kind of like they're playing a chess game, right? So now the missives that are directed towards the queen do not sound like a back and forth volley in a game.
Yeah.
But this one isn't caught because what she says, although it's not completely observant, because if it had been observant, she would have definitely thrown in the check. I couldn't say it was a checkmate, but the check of like, but where did Francesca go when she needed some air? You know what I mean? Which she would have if it would have been, let's say, Emma Kenworthy or,
yes,
it was boring. But because it was Francesca, if she had observed it, but I don't think she did. I think she was too busy living her own life.
Yes.
So the queen didn't catch it. But what I love here is where it shows us that when the queen does catch it, it's because the queen knows Penelope very well. She knows how she writes. She knows she uses it like a game. It's like they're playing chess with each other. So when she would have gone in for the checkmate and she didn't, that's when the queen caught her.
Yes. Like I do wish, it had been, poised to become the new Marquis Samadani. But where did Miss Francesca Bridgerton sneak off to before the ball? Does she potentially have other suitors?
And who was that dashing man? Like, but she would never do that to the Bridgertons.
No.
At all.
No, not unless she was like, look over here. But even Brimsley is like, Brimsley tries to kind of butter up the queen, stating that she's being praised by Lady Whistledown. And the queen questions how he can read from all the way back there. And he retorts, with much practice, anything is possible. The underlining meaning that he spent a lifetime honing the craft of reading her.
But I also think that, and we saw this, think about Danbury's ball where, the queen and Danbury are talking and Danbury pointedly looks at Brimsley. Brimsley and Danbury look at each other. When they're playing the chess game, Danbury and Brimsley purposely look at each other. I think Brimsley knew something was up with Whistledown here.
Yes.
And that's why he says, ooh, she lavishes a lot of praise on you, like trying to give her the hint.
Yes.
And she's not taking it because he's seeing something is amiss. Something seems off. Like,
and he knows
Brimsley's very, very, very astute and observant.
He knows that if he points it out, she'll be angry for him seeming more intelligent than her. So he's doing the My Big Fat Greek Wedding thing where the wife leads the husband to the conclusion that she is like definitely like, take this path and take this path and take this path. Oh, look, a conclusion. Wow, how did we get here?
Yeah. But I also think he understands this is not his game, this is hers. And he doesn't want to ruin the fun for her because this is really the only thing that's entertaining right now. Like, she's living a hard life.
I feel like him and Lady D kind of tag team her with that.
They very much manage her. They're managing her in a way that allows her to not dwell on her situation, on the sadness of her situation. They're trying to give her as much, and it's a struggle for her, I would say. I don't think the queen is happy per se. She's content to be the queen. She's come to accept her life, but it is very much a life of duty, and she lost the love part of it. She very much is she's grieving and she's in stasis. She can't move on. It's this weird situation. And I think that Lady Danbury and Brimsley both do this dance with her that, to keep her in good spirits. It's all about keeping her in good spirits because she now, as the queen who is going unchecked because her husband is indisposed, she is acting on her heart all the time. Her heart, reason is out the window. Everything is about her feeling. When she's angry at something, like Danbury seemed frustrated, not even angry, frustrated with who her guest is. And she's like, I'm going to banish. Like, the queen, if we look at real history with Queen Charlotte had people beheaded. She sent people to Australia. Like, this is that Queen Charlotte. Like, she's a little bit mad.
She's very, whatever she wants in that moment. I want it, do it.
Yeah. And if I'm mad, that what I want is going to be terrible.
And her brother kind of even does point that out to her, that she, can be a little bit spoiled and she doesn't really see the bigger picture
and very
a lot of the
impulsive.
Time. Yes, she doesn't see the bigger picture and she just does whatever she wants in that moment, doesn't really think it through. So in the art of being impulsive, the queen states that they are going to throw a celebration and Brimsley states and a chance perhaps to secure a match for our match for Miss Francesca
Our
Bridgerton.
match, yes.
But said as a question. The Queen turns her entire body around to see how close he is, just how close he is, to constantly read her so well, and tells him to take another step back. Sort of a joke, but also a symbolism of how much she struggles to let others close enough to see her.
Well, and I think he was playing a jest a little bit.
Yes.
Like putting some humor into it, saying our match.
Yes.
Like he's her work husband,
they
right?
are the team. They are the team.
So he's kind of trying to give her that moment of feeling like she's in because all she wants to be is a meddling mama. Like her kids didn't want to get married. Her kids didn't want any of that business. Her kids can't go out into the ton. And, that's not their level of people. That's not their station of people. She has a fear of missing out. She's missing out on things.
You know why I think it is? I think her children make her think of George too much. And so kind of like Violet, where she went through her depression, dealing with her children makes her feel all the feelings of you are your father, you are me, like when he brings up Lottie, like when he's saying, where is our daughter? And you killed her. And the real truth of that is losing their daughter and losing him killed the heart of her. And she definitely let the armor rust.
Right, but she's still very reactive feeling. Mm-hmm. And I think that Brimsley here was trying to give her that moment of connection of we're in this together.
Yeah, you're not doing life on your own. I'm here.
So like part of it is putting him back in his place a little bit, but part of it is like George is here. That's not your, like
I'm not ready. I'm not ready to let anyone else fill that role.
Right.
Yes.
It was very symbolic in that. Take another pace back. That's still spot. Right.
Yes. Okay. So that scene kind of closes up and we have another Lady Whistledown missive that goes, of course, whatever maketh our collective hearts well may yet make them break. The season is still early and oft has a mind of its own. This is a very cheeky way for the narrator to say that the Queen has gotten ahead of herself, and whilst she swells with pride of having been praised for the match between Francesca and Lord Samardani, that pride is about to be squashed as John is about to call upon Francesca for a formal introduction, crushing any hope that Lord Samardani had of really truly courting Francesca.
Well, I also think it's shadowing too, because Lord John makes well that with her.
Yes.
Just not for a little bit, but I saw that as shadowing as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a few collective meanings within there.
Now we see how to break all of rules of engagement in the ton versus the perfection of the rules of the ton.
John is a rule follower. But
no,
sorry. Lord Samardani is the rule follower.
Yeah. Yeah, and he follows every rule to a T.
He does. Sorry. So we see the maid bringing in Milfoy, for Lord Samardani.
Because it's French.
Yes, it is French. I looked it up. I've got notes on this. For Lord Samardani's arrival. This is a traditional French dish that us Kiwis over this side of the world and Aussies also known as a custard square or a custard slice. So it is like, it's meant to be, it translates to being like 1,000 layers of pastry or something like that. And it's like really thin layers of pastry stacked on top of each other, a custard layer, more pastry on top, and then kind of an icing that's then swirled with like a darker chocolate icing on top. Do you not have a custard slice or custard squares? Do you like custard?
What, pudding?
It's kind of it's a cross between a custard and a jelly. So it's the consistency of custard, but set hard like jelly.
So it's kind of like what we have in a Danish?
Not as soft.
Yeah, because Danish is not layers of pastry either.
No.
It's more of a baked good. But the filling of a Danish kind of sounds like that.
Yes, it is very similar, fruit, but it's thicker. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was one of the...
I'm not sure if we have anything truly... I mean, because the way I was thinking of milfoy was like kind of like a cassata cake or Boston cream pie where you have your layers of cake.
No.
And then there's that jelly or custard layer or filling and then another layer of cake and then it's topped chocolate or a glaze.
No, because the literal translation of milfoy was like 1,000 layer cake or something like that, but it's layers of pastry.
Million,
like really
mil.
Yeah. lots of layers of pastry, and then yeah, like when you come here one day, I will
So
1000%
so
take you.
basically it's a very hard to make pastry
No,
and
it's
they
actually
had
fairly
their cook
easy.
make it.
No, it's actually fairly easy, but
1,000 layers of pastry does not sound
because
easy
we
though.
have skills nowadays to be able to make those layers of pastry, just buy the pastry. So you don't need to be having, like, if you had to make it from scratch, like back then, yes, it would be hard to make. But nowadays, because we can just
That's what I'm
buy the
saying. Like
pastry.
back then, that's time consuming, and they took
Oh,
the time to
very.
get all the stuff and have their cook go to his kitchen
Yes.
and figure out how to make it from his cook. So
Yes.
that's a lot to put into a person
Yes.
suitor. I think that's very important to note. Like this isn't something you're buying at a store. This is
Well,
a lot
it
went into
reminds me of
this.
season one where Violet kind of has her cook make, what was it for, it was his favorite dessert.
His dessert. Yeah,
Mm.
what
It
was
was a
that?
kind of pie. Apple, no, like cranberry pie or peach cobbler pie or
Gooseberry? Gooseberry? Wasn't it
gooseberry pie.
gooseberry?
Thank you, gooseberry pie.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, a dessert that my chef is famous for. And she's like, yes, good, good, good. And all I could see in that moment when she's like realizing that it's her chef's like best thing to make, it was like the Mr. Burns. Excellent kind of moment.
Well,
Meddling
and that's how
mamas.
Violet. That's part of playing into. You find out what the guy likes, provide it. It
Yes.
almost gives him the sense that that debutante is going to provide as well.
That our family knows how to go above and beyond. We're great hostesses. We know how to play our role in society. That's kind of what it's saying.
Yeah,
Like we're
yeah,
not
it's
just
part of the application process. Yeah.
yeah, we're not just you're not just going to get a wife, you're going to get an esteemed pianist, you're going to get a woman who knows how to run a household, you're going to get a woman who knows how to run a family because she's got 7 siblings. Like this is kind of what Violet is selling.
And I think that I think it just shows like how much Violet wants this for Francesca,
Yes.
but
And
Violet did all the work. Like Francesca did nothing. Whereas in season one, like Daphne was where Violet did the dessert thing and inviting him for dinner. Look at everything
yes.
Daphne was doing following that playbook. But Francesca's literally doing nothing.
Well, and
Violet's doing all the
I
work.
even said this. I said Violet is way too eager where he is concerned and seems to have really put her blinders on this season. I said Francesca is a bit nervous about all of the fuss in case Lord Samandani doesn't choose to call upon her. The first time that we see her being a somewhat insecure teenager, I can't tell whether it's nervousness because she doesn't want him to call upon her, nervousness because she doesn't know if they're going to be a good match, and there is just like, as I said, excitement and nervousness kind of go hand in hand when our body's physical responses are involved.
I almost think Francesca's anxiety and Francesca's trauma somehow stem from how excited she gets. The more
Yes.
excited her mother gets, the more she tries to bring her down to reality or
Yeah.
what she perceives reality to be. But she purposely, like, Violet knows gentleman is showing up. And Francesca is trying to put a little bit of, water, she's being kind of a wet blanket. Like, and I don't know if it was supposed to come off as a lack of self-esteem because I didn't really take it that way. It seemed like in this season, every time that Violet got excited about something, Francesca brought her down a peg until Violet started focusing on Colin and Penelope and wasn't focusing on her. And she took that as Violet wasn't excited about her. And Violet
Yeah.
had reservations, but she still was happy for them. But because it wasn't that over the top excitement, like, where's Sir John's Scottish shepherd's pie? Like, why aren't you making him his favorite thing or whatever? Like,
Well, I mean, to
she
be
just,
fair, Violet didn't even know that he was in the race at this point.
well, not at this point, but I'm talking like even later. Like she starts out every time Violet gets excited, she's like, but he might not even show up, but he might not even ask me for a first dance, and you're focusing on the second dance. But then later, when she's seeing Violet be excited over Colin and Penelope, she's now missing that excitement where she didn't want it.
Yes.
And so I think she doesn't like that to be the focus, but then once that focus is gone, she misses.
Yes. Yeah. And I think she has a lot of insecurity that doesn't really translate immediately as insecurity. I think it just comes
But I
off.
don't think, because of what we know and where it's going, I think that she's already figured this out kind of about herself, and because she can't create enough of feeling to warrant this becoming a connection, she is assuming there's no feeling on his side either. Does that make sense? Like, she doesn't want him to show up. She doesn't really want him to ask her for a second dance because she's not ready to make that kind of commitment or decision because he's not feeling the vibe.
Francesca
So
feels like
she's putting that out into the world.
Francesca feels like someone who she wants life to happen to her. She doesn't want to have to make the choices.
Right. Again, whistle down. Like,
well, and
your heart and head are in conflict, the choices are agony.
And
her heart.
And her mum like actively forces her, you want John? You get John. I'm not going to talk to the Queen. You actually have to make a choice for once in your life. You go after what you want. All your siblings actively chased after, quite literally, with a horse.
Wrong
chased
person,
after,
yeah.
No, but I'm saying, like, Anthony chased after Kate with a horse. Daphne chased after the Duke to stop the duel on a horse. All her siblings have literally, not even metaphorically, literally chased after what they wanted to get it.
Yeah.
And here is Francesca just letting life happen to her and just be like, well, it'll just fall into place as it's supposed to. I don't want to have to make any choices because if I make a choice, then I've chosen this, you know? Then I've got no one else to blame but myself because I chose this life.
Right.
But if it's not right.
Right. That's
as the doorman announces.
Damn you, Bridgerton. I can relate just about everything to someone or something in my life. It's not all me, guys. It's not all me.
Hi, me. The problem is me. I chose Stephen.
No, I was thinking of someone else.
I know. As the doorman,
somebody who struggles decision making.
Yes. Thankfully, my husband also struggles with decision making, but he, as John says, knew the decision like as soon as it popped up. Like, there's some decisions that you have a hard time with in life, and sometimes they're just easy.
And I think that makes it its own kind of complicated because decisions that always feel hard, you know what I mean? Like, it's a cognitive dissonance when there's right in front of you that seems very right. There must be wrong. Like, there's gotta be.
You know what? It sounds really jaded, but like watching Bridgerton, and especially season 1 and season 2, creates almost like a trauma in me because I feel like I have a love very much like Violet and.
I have CPTSD, and it was caused by Bridgerton.
Yeah, I do. But like Edmund and Violet had a kind of love that is so rare, and I very, very, very much feel like that is the kind of love that I have with my husband. Life is easy with him. It fits as exactly as it's meant to fit. We complement each other. We push each other. We do not fight. Like you saw, like he let Ezra into my little.
You guys are just petty, and then you're over. Like, yeah. I love it. It's so fun to watch.
It's petty from a place of love though. And like, I feel so incredibly blessed and lucky to have a love that I have. I know how rare it is. I know how special it is. And I feel like...
And you just gave me an insight into our season, namely Colin. Well, because we know he's had feelings since the beginning. But what if, because Colin believes he has to earn everything, that it's supposed to be this big deal? Like Don Quixote, he's got to go off on this mission to save all these people to earn his true love. But Penn, and it's so easy.
And it was right there.
It's supposed to be this easy. So he just keeps going, this can't be right. It's too easy. It's too easy.
Well, and I mean,
gotta make it hard.
Like everything, like not saying that everything in my life has been a struggle, because it hasn't. My health and those kinds of things like have been a massive struggle my entire life. I've had 9 surgeries at this point in my life. Like I've gone through the ringer with my health. And when it comes to my husband, I'm like, it's too easy. And sometimes I feel like life likes to maintain a balance, and you don't get good forever. Like, you get a certain amount of good, and then you've hit your quota.
I don't think anything is forever. I think we gotta hold on to the good as long as we can, because that's not going to last forever. And then we gotta remember, when we're in the trials and the hard part, that where it may feel like it's lasting forever, that doesn't even last forever. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that humans are meant to learn is that, nothing's forever. We're not,
No. And it's quite funny because we had Valentine's Day the other day, and I think people assume that because we're like happily married and in love, they're like, what are you doing for Valentine's Day? And I'm like, no thanks. And I think people assume that when people don't celebrate Valentine's Day, it's because they're like cynical or that kind of thing. And I'm like, no, it's just that like we have a great marriage every day. And like I do like to be spoiled and I like to be made to feel special and those kinds of things, but it's not because a certain day tells him he has to do that on this day. Like even when it comes to our anniversaries and things like that, if we're busy on that day and we've got other plans that, like we've got a wedding or we've got a kid's birthday party or whatever, we're like, we don't care. We'll just celebrate another day. We're not attached to the day. We're attached to the feelings that we want to share with each other. So for me, Valentine's Day is just kind of a non-event. Not that everyone feels that way, and that's fine too.
No, and as a very romantic person, like I always had to have that like kind of epic Valentine's Day, which I've not experienced except, loving myself. Like I've had some very epic Valentine's days where
can I say I love Galentine's? Love Galentine's. I love that that's a thing now, and I love that you went and bought yourself some cute little hairpins and whatnot, and you spoiled yourself.
Flowers.
You did.
I bought myself flowers. I bought myself chocolate. And then a couple years ago, I was reminded that I bought myself clothes.
Patty's, what's the song, the Miley Cyrus one? I can buy myself flowers.
It's called Flowers. Yeah. And that's what I did 2 years ago. That song was just out.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like in the aftermath of finally going no contact. And that's what I did. Like, I bought myself flowers. I bought myself a whole new outfit, bought myself new jeans. I was really pouring into myself. The year of 2023 was the year of me. 2024 was the year of more. 25 is the year I thrive. That is what I've said.
Love that. And love that the girls who run the Bridgerton Ball events in the town over from here, they do a Galentine's Day event. For reference, they are female relationship, but they run a Galentine's Day event for girlfriends, for girl/friends, to go and celebrate together, because it doesn't have to be romantic. There are all sorts of love out there, and I think love should just be celebrated and not just one type of love.
My best friend and I both, like, we chatted with each other and we wished each other Valentine's Day. Like, the people that love you and you love, it doesn't have to be romantic love that you celebrate. And I think that's probably been part of my journey, because I never have had an epic Valentine's, like, big gesture kind of thing. I've had some small Valentines, or mostly non-existent, but nothing, I would say nothing memorable. And I don't want to.
I just looked at how many notes I've got to go.
We're good. But yeah, I kind of see that Francesca is kind of just hoping, she wants the queen to make them for her. She kind of wanted there to only be one choice, because that would make it easier. And that's what we're stemming into. She's entering her own love triangle, and she kind of doesn't know what to do with it, and it's creating this cognitive dissonance, because where she's been putting down the whole situation time, now she may actually have to make a choice, and she didn't want to make it. As you said.
Well, and speaking of people making choices for others, as the doorman announces the arrival of a gentleman caller, Violet is like a little giddy schoolgirl. Like, is this because she likes him and therefore she thinks that her daughter should as well? I'm like, it's clearly not about social standing, because as we saw from season 1, Violet very much chose, well, not chose, you know what I mean? Like she put her hat in the ring for the Duke. Like, she was pushing that for not the prince. Like, her daughter could have been a princess. That would have put her literally at the top of the food chain, short of marrying the king, which is already married. Like, it is as high as you can possibly go. But Violet did not care one little bit.
I know, but her excitement is probably not for Francesca. Who else in the room is just as excited at being part of the experience?
Hyacinth.
And why is that? Because she knows someday it's going to be her, and she wants to experience it so much because she's so romantic.
Yeah.
And she's experiencing it, but it's not her, but she wants it to be her. So she's super excited. I think Violet's the same way. I think Violet, her head hasn't wrapped around the fact that she wants a second act, but her heart's already there. And so she's super excited because she's
But it's
remembering
like when you
what it
get
was
second,
like, the
you get
giddiness of it.
you get secondhand excitement. Like I'm super excited for you to like. I think I'm just about as excited for you to go on this boat cruise as what you are, and it's not for anything lacking in my own life. I just love, and I love when it is so right and the timing is falling into place and everything. And so I get secondhand excitement.
Look,
Like
I
when
talk in code. Could you talk in
Patty's
This will
ready.
be the one time. This will be the one episode that gets listened to. I don't listen to any of the episodes because
Patty's
I don't know
about
that
to go
show,
on
and
her
then this will be
odyssey.
the one.
Patty's about to go on her odyssey, and the timing is finally right for her to be able to. The gods are in her favor. Athena has granted
Picture
her.
it, Sicily, 1923. So yes, the romance, the relationship, that it was the right person but always the wrong timing, seems to it's come back around for another try. And yeah, that's where we're at.
And instead of Lord Samadani, Lord Kilmartin steps through the entrance, shocking Violet and pleasing Francesca as she smiles at him. We hear a harp play as he enters in, which I found very interesting because that is the symbol of love. The harp is very much like synonymous with love when it comes to that music.
Well, and I think it's like her heartstring because she's very musically inclined. So
Yes.
like he has.
This is what she was feeling. The harp playing was like her internal heart.
Yeah. Lord John Sterling, without saying a word, has played her heartstring. Like she's the instrument and he's the musician. And that speaks to her because she can communicate so well without words through her music. And he's doing the same thing. But I mean, from the jump, how in the world did he announce himself at the door to the footman, to the housekeeper? Yeah. He did not give a name because John the footman could not give a name. He says, you have a visitor. He doesn't even know who the visitor is for. Yes. And then Lord John just walks in. So he barreled in the house. And then
I love that Hyacinth puts her foot in it by assuming that he is Lord Samadani and explaining that their cook has prepared special treats for him. Violet cuts her off. Hyacinth, I thought, was so cute though because she was trying to be the perfect little hostess. I was like,
and she was
cutie.
But if you look at her before she starts, she literally looks at everybody like, why is no one speaking?
Yeah.
We are supposed to be greeting this man. Like she knows the rules. Like, why
perfect
is
hostess.
Nobody speaking? She doesn't understand that nobody knows his name. She doesn't understand that he's not been introduced.
Yeah.
And so she sticks her foot in her mouth.
And I think this is kind
of a little bit humiliated though. I love how quickly she recovers because she's like, y'all are the ones who screwed up, not me.
I think she makes an amazing, she would make an amazing mama of the ton, because like when we see in the book, she's not really that way inclined. She's a little bit more mischievous and calculating, and like she is still that that Hyacinth, but she's known as like one of the boys sort of thing, and no one kind of like Daphne, no one wants to date her because they're all terrified of how intelligent she is, whereas in the TV series they've made her a lot more societal expectation, and they have said in the Valentine's Day event, they said that in next season we are going to be seeing a lot more of Hyacinth and Gregory, and that Hyacinth is going to be like jumping at the strings to be like part of, like she wants to be on the ton, and I don't even feel like it's because she wants love. I think she just wants the experience of courtship and to see everything going on because she is someone who wants knowledge. She wants to know everything. She wants to see everything. She doesn't want secondhand accounts. She doesn't want to read it through Lady Whistledown. She wants to be in the thick of it.
Yes, and I think that this scene also speaks to how much of the rules Eloise actually knows, because Eloise balks at so many of the and we see throughout the season like how she navigates the conversation between Lord Debling and Cressida, that she actually does know a lot about the rules of society. But here she is just as mortified for Hyacinth as Francesca and Violet appear to be, and she almost like makes a move like it looks like she's gonna reach out and stop her. So we see just how much Eloise understands the society. But I think this is a testament to John himself. Like he is breaking the rules, which he's not prone to do. So he's going after what he wants in almost a fashion outside of his character, which we learn about later. But he navigates this whole lack of introduction into an introduction so smoothly.
Yes.
You'd almost think this had happened before.
We need Smooth Criminal to be playing.
Right. I mean, he seriously was like, I'm sure it's all my fault.
Yeah.
Let's move
Violet
on and
apologizes to John, but he so graciously deflects it and takes responsibility to the point that Violet almost looks shocked at his show of humility, because it's not an expression that she is used to seeing on men.
And
outside
not
of her
somebody
family.
of his station either.
Yes.
I mean, he's an earl.
Yes.
So, I mean, you can tell this is a new experience for her, that he is so affable and agreeable and takes accountability, even when it probably is not his fault.
I'm kind of surprised that she doesn't know who he is. Because she seems like the kind of mama that would go out of her way, kind of like Queen Charlotte and Lady Danbury when they had all the miniatures. I'm surprised that Violet doesn't have her own set of miniatures where she goes through, like,
but I don't think there was a miniature of him because he's from Scotland.
Yeah.
He was here, maybe not necessarily looking for a wife. He was here for doing his duty.
Yeah.
He only goes to enough social functions to fulfill his duty. And he only stays as long as he needs to. He stays on the outskirts or outside. And this is the first season that Francesca shows up. So he probably was like, oh my gosh, who's that girl?
I'm kind of surprised.
Who's that lady? Who's that lady?
I'm kind of surprised
that's the only reason he surfaced.
I'm surprised that out of all the events that he chose to go to, I actually thought it would have been Lord Fuller's book collection, because John in the Box was an avid reader, and obviously we had the book collection, and then we had the Eros and Saki ballet, and he seems like he would really enjoy those things because he's in the ton, he's fulfilling his duties without having to actually interact with people, because he can interact with the books and the play. Not the play, the ballet.
The reason he didn't attend is because it was a small society function. It was a small group of people, which means he would have had to be social. He would have been noticed.
Yeah.
If you notice, the only things he goes to are very large parties, very large balls, because you can hide in a crowd of people.
That makes sense. So John explains that he is there to call upon one of her daughters, though he does not name which.
Oh, I love
this, as they
so much.
never had a formal introduction. Cue one of my favorite Eloise moments, where she fears
Claudia Jessie is the queen.
Where she fears it may be her, and she slips in behind Gregory. Hyacinth notices this and is so amused. She has like a smirk on her face because she thinks it's hilarious.
I know.
I love that the scene was not scripted. This was just a Claudia Jessie choice. Seal of
Claudia
approval.
Jessie is a queen of the improv. That was beautiful. And the fact that Hyacinth is taller than Gregory.
Yes.
At this moment in time, Hyacinth is taller than Gregory, but she feels like she can hide more behind the only male in the room. Because if he doesn't know the family at all, he's not sure who he's there for. She's going to hide behind the person he truly has to talk to, because Gregory is unfortunately that male.
Protect me, brother.
Yeah, protect me, brother. You are my shield.
She's going to stick the family dog on him.
Well, and she knows Hyacinth would just get too much fun out of, oh, he's here to see you, Eloise, and push her forward. Hyacinth would not protect her at all.
No, she would not. And the body language from Francesca tells her mother that it is Francesca that Lord John is there to see. Fran and John give each other...
the fact that he can't stop looking at her.
Francesca and John give each other formal introductions where Violet is just looking more and more and more perplexed. Francesca finally explains to her mum how they met and how they have not had a formal introduction yet. Even though Violet does not follow a lot of the rules of the ton, even she looks pissy. She looks scandalized by his actions. And the actions of her daughter, because she's like, you're the rule follower. Like, well, not the rule follower, but she's the quiet one. She just doesn't kind of expect it from her.
Right. And this is complete. You do not admit to having met someone without being introduced by someone else. You do not show up to a person's house like a a gentleman can show up to another gentleman's house, call on a gentleman of the house.
Yes.
When they don't know them. Like,
yes.
they can call upon the lord of the house. If the lord of the house is not home, they leave their card, they
Yes.
leave. The fact that he still walked in, he was coming for a daughter to court,
and this
had
moment
not been received by Antony at all. Poor form.
This moment, John is very forward and asks to join for a moment, when which Francesca responds agreeing, then looks nervously to her mum, realizing, oh crap, I don't actually get to make that decision. Violet does not look pleased one bit because Francesca has absolutely forced her hand by already agreeing. She can't now, I mean, she could, but not, she couldn't. And
but she would have looked, and we already know Violet doesn't like the bad guy.
Yes. Whereas if she were any other mama, she would say, I'm sorry, we're expecting company. Please leave your card and come back another time. You know, if she was another mama of the ton, that's probably how it would have gone down. But Violet realizes that Francesca has very much forced her hand. And I think
it would have been Portia. She'd have been like, we've had enough for today. Say hi to Penelope on your way out if you must.
Yeah. if
like,
you must.
Like, get the hell out. I'm done.
Yeah, so yeah, Violet, I think she doesn't like the underhanded way that the whole entire situation, like, she knows that John is technically being like kind and polite and everything, but it just all seems underhanded to her.
Yeah, she just doesn't understand, like, because he doesn't care about social functions, like, he's not a very social person. He also doesn't hold a lot of stock in social graces.
Rules. Yeah.
And I think he very much is a rule follower, but it just shows you how much Francesca has discombobulated him and how in love with her he is right off the bat.
Yeah.
But it also, like, he takes so long to think on things. You know, I wonder if he's been around previously to the ball they meet at, but just because he's John and hides in the wings, and, you know, because I think he would have been at Danbury's ball. That ball was huge. There was tons of people. And that may have been, I almost want to go back and look and see if I can find his butt. But he might have noticed her, but she was very much, that was the first ball of the season, and she was under everybody's notice. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So he would not have had a chance to, and he found her, purposely sought her out when she went outside. I think he knew at some point it would get to her and she would seek solace in a private way. Because in Danbury's ball, her seeking solace, having a moment to herself, was sitting on a sofa in the side of the room, or sitting on the other side, standing on the other side of the room with Penelope. She didn't actually leave the area to a quiet.
Yeah.
So he waited. I think he watched and waited until she sought a quiet place, and then he could. Yeah.
I love that.
He's a stalker.
He's a stalker. Don't take it there. Eloise looks rather happy.
I like John, but I just thought that was funny. Like, he's lying in wait.
He is lying in wait. Eloise looks rather happy with herself that she escaped from yet another potential suitor. Like, she's well done. Well done. You're so repulsive. No one's calling upon you. Well done. Tip of the hat to me. She's just,
Eloise is like, thank the Lord God above.
I love her though. Like, I know that she's got her issues, but she's just so comical. Honestly, I can't wait for next season.
How much she's run from it, and I think this is the draw of Benedict too. Like, Benedict has ran for 2.5 seasons, we'll say, because he did approach. He was planning on courting Lady Tilly, but I think he saw this as a socially acceptable. He had some feelings she was interesting, but I think that this was a socially acceptable way of having a relationship. I think he knew it would not end, or he knew it would end, that it would not continue, that it was not marriage material. This was not the person. So he could safely enter this, whatever it would be.
Yeah.
And I think Eloise isn't there yet. She's still in the active running phase. But I think what is going to make Benedict's season so good is the fact that he did run for so long. It's going to be so interesting to watch him pursue, to actually go after. And Eloise is going to turn on a dime. I seriously see her being like,
I think she
Run,
needs
run,
that
run,
growth.
push away, and then bam, it's just
Well,
gonna be
because keep in mind that next season, like it's literally always the season before that we see each of our leads kind of go through their big development and growth. And I think next season is going to truly open Eloise's eyes. So the way that Jess Brownell has kind of worded this seems like a lot of our season 4 fan theories have gone out the window because Eloise is already back from her travels in Scotland and she's back in the hands of her meddling mama, who is very much wanting to put her back on the marriage mart. Yes. New fan theory. You heard it here first. Where are we going? Take me on a journey.
okay. So we know that her whole thing is she writes letters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know that she doesn't really think a love match is in her purview.
Yes.
And she thought Penelope was the same. And Penelope seeking a husband, the first husband that it looked like she was seeking, Eloise clocked exactly why she was considering Debling. Because when she says Colin is not Lord Debling, he will not be gone for years at a time where you can just be whistled down and not get found out.
Yeah.
So
she knew it wasn't a love match. Yeah. So she was more okay with it.
So and she had conversed with Lord Debling. It had been pleasant. She wants to be able to do what she wants to do.
She knew that Lord Debling was an intellect.
I almost wonder if, like we said, Black Dress is finding out Marina has passed and that, or, you know, even later finding out Marina has passed. And here she sees her Debling moment. Like, I'm going to write this gentleman.
Oh, how many deaths are we potentially getting this season? We've got 3 potentials. King George,
right, but
Marina, and John.
Yeah, but I don't know if John's going to die this season because Francesca's season's not going to be for another season. So
yeah,
we may not see.
They may kill him off in Eloise's season. Well, they have to, realistically.
Right. I mean, for her to get with Michaela, they would have to. Or they do like the Queen and they choose to keep him alive and it just becomes a thing. They've already done beard marriage. They've already done all the foreshadowing that he's gonna die. Yeah. But what if she decides, okay, my mom's pushing me, because we know Violet's pushing her again, right? My mom's pushing me to get married. I'm not gonna get out of this marriage thing. What if I choose? Yes. I'm going to choose this guy who is a widower. He's got 2 kids. He needs a wife. He needs a mother for those kids. I just have been around, like, let's say, you know, she's been around some kids. She kind of thinks Penelope's kid is cute. She doesn't like little babies, but she finds she maybe likes the Mondrich kids or something like that, you know? And so she's like, I could do this. And he seems to be, Colin talks about him, he seems to be all in his own stuff. Hold on. Seems to be all in his own stuff. It'll be like Debling. He'll do his own thing. I'll do my own thing. It'll be okay. And I will get out of my mother's line of sight. And she starts writing him. And that's what starts it. That's the catalyst. Like, she's just trying to take the whole thing in her own hands.
I kind of think a little bit differently to that. I think that it's going to go a little bit more towards the book of it, where Eloise in the books always kind of saw herself and Penelope growing old together, and then she sees her brother and Penelope, and they're so happy and they're so blissful. Not that they necessarily are, because of the whole Whistledown thing, but like, to her perception, they are, because she knows that even though there may be things between them, that they're still taking it on.
And there's going to be an intimacy with them that wasn't there before, and she feels like she's on the outside looking in.
And I think it's going to be the first time that she actually sees love in less of a combative way, because keep in mind that Eloise and Daphne always had kind of a not troubled relationship, but they just, what they both wanted, antagonistic, because Daphne basically represented everything that Eloise saw wrong with society, and so she really struggles with her sister because she goes after everything that Eloise is terrified of, whereas, and she doesn't have to see them. Like, Daphne marries the Duke and they go off to Cliveden and they're in their own space. Even with Anthony and Kate, they get married, they're straight off. They're off on their honeymoon. They come back for very short periods of time where Kate does actually have some really nice bonding moments with Eloise, but not them two together like we did with Colin. So she's not really seeing them working together as a couple, or she doesn't really have to confront how it looks. Right. I think that Penelope and Colin are going to be the first time that she actively is around an in-love couple, and also I don't so much think so much Francesca and John, because their love looks very, very different to how it does elsewhere. But she's going to come back and she's going to see this great love between Penelope and Colin, and then she's going to see them have this child that they love, and that child is a representation of both of the people
But I
that she
think
loves the most. And I think it's going to make her realize that
but I think she
being
will have
being married
experienced.
I think it's going to make her realize that being married to the right person is a wonderful thing, and that actually it can bring so much joy in life. It doesn't mean you have to give up on your intelligence. And I think if Colin plays his cards right and allows Penelope to still be that independent, strong woman, that writer, and value her mind before being a lady of the ton first, which he's going to, we know he's going to be the Colin my wife Bridgerton. I think when Eloise sees that, hey, this is how a marriage can look. You can be a wife, you can still be independent, you can still be the head of a household, you can be all these things and still maintain your intelligence and whatnot. I think that she may start thinking love isn't the worst thing in the world if it's the right kind, if it's based on something that I value the most, which is intelligence. Which is why her and Sir Philip end up getting together, because their bond is formed over letters, just like Colin and Penelope's, where they get to know each
Show
other.
Colin and Penelope, yeah.
Yeah, like, but they get to know each other through words first. So they kind of took that moment from Eloise and Sir Philip.
Right. And I
Making
was
love
thinking
older.
about that, but Colin and Penelope's letters are different because as writers, they're both developing their writing skill. That's kind of why they're doing it, but they're also doing it because they're really saying things without saying
Yeah,
things, and they're finding clever ways of writing things to, I mean, if you look at the letter that he reads from her, she talks about how cold it is there, cold and rainy, and please, send
and some
some warmth
sunshine.
to
Yeah,
our side of the pond. So that's another way of saying, send me your love.
yeah,
I miss your warmth.
yes.
Right. So they're saying things without saying things. They're expressing feelings without it looking obvious. And that's very apropos of the time, because a lot of letters that have been found amongst things are, historical letters between friends.
Yes.
Like they've determined some people were lovers because they look at the wording of things and they're realizing, oh, this has a double meaning.
One of the Christmas movies that I just watched recently, I don't recall what it's called, but it was actually one of my preferred Christmas movies I've watched in a really long time, because it just seemed like a little more real. So it was an army veteran female, and she helps a guy. He somehow ends up in possession of, from a clothing sale, or whatever, he ends up in possession of this army jacket, and in the jacket he finds some photos of a loving couple and some letters, and they end up going on this big skirmish to try and get the jacket back to the family. And it turns out that the couple that were in the photos were both working undercover, and their love letters weren't just love letters, but also coded messages to each other, which was really
Oh, that's
cute.
cool.
Yeah, it was
But
actually.
I think that, yeah, I think Colin and Penn are going to be they said things that they couldn't say out loud, but
Mhm.
they, as writers, could find clever ways of saying them. And I think that Eloise and Philip are both very direct, and their letters are going to be very direct.
Yeah.
So I think the letters can still work, and they definitely do like become interested in each other because of their intelligence.
Yeah.
But I just don't see, Eloise is so against love because it leads to marriage for a woman, and to her that leads to the
Childbirth.
end of her
And
life.
yeah.
It leads to losing, not being able to be smart because her husband is, not being able to be outspoken because she's got to submit to her husband.
I wish we got interactions between Eloise and Lady Tilly for that reason, so that Eloise could see that, yes, being married does mean that the husband is the head of the household, but like you can still be a strong, independent, outspoken woman. And I wonder whether we will get some Lady Tilly in the next
But I
season.
think Lady Tilly is outspoken in a way that I even think Eloise would admire, but Eloise would be like, wow. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think that Tilly would have been a little too much for Eloise at the time. Eloise hasn't matured enough to understand that her brand of, Eloise just wants to be accepted, intelligent. Tilly bulldozes into the room. You will accept her intelligence. Two
Yes.
very different things. Like Eloise doesn't want to have to work for it. She believes she's entitled to it simply because she is intelligent.
Yeah.
Her being female shouldn't matter. Tilly likes to, and my best example is like my brother is gay, and he went, it was very hard coming out when he did, at the age he is, the generation he is, and he has he has a tattoo of a pride flag, and below it it says, "So what if I am?" And
Mm.
I think that that is Tilly. Like
Mm.
Tilly is like, so what if I am
Combative.
female?
Yeah.
I'm still, but Eloise is like, that shouldn't matter. Like Eloise almost comes off in the intelligence department like she's asexual. Like, it shouldn't matter if I'm a man or a woman or whatever. I'm just intelligent. Like her identity is how smart she is.
And
And
I think she gets scared of love as well, because like where Theo was involved, her intelligence kind of went out the window a little bit, and she started being really risky.
yes,
And
it did.
I think that's where she's afraid, because being in love sometimes does strip away, as you were saying, we can't
Oh,
be
you get
impartial.
so stupid.
We get so stupid, and it strips away our inhibitions, and we are so far tangented.
I know, but we're coming back because what I'm saying is like, I think that the letters will still work. I personally think that she wants full control over her own future.
But
She's not going to get the future she wants. She's getting the inevitable, but since it's inevitable, she is going to take the reins and she's going to drive that bus, right? I mean, or drive that carriage.
Yes.
But I think she starts the letters with Philip because it opens up, like she knows Colin's already met him. Colin thinks so she would be like Marina. He treated Marina well. He provided Marina a house. So she already knows his character, like he's responsible and he has a sense of duty and all of that, things she recognizes in her brothers. I think she goes into it with her head and finds her heart when she gets there.
What is the girl's name from Anne with an E who nearly marries the teacher and then decides to pick herself instead?
Well, in Anne of Green Gables, Chrissy, yeah. I don't know if it's with Anne.
No, I'm pretty sure it is.
It might be. But yeah, so I think that the fan theories that we had don't work because we had thought that Colin would go and get her and Marina would have died, and
Prissy, right?
Prissy Andrews,
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
Prissy Andrews. Yeah. And so I think like here in this scene, we're seeing Eloise still shy away. She's shrinking away. She's running away from courtship.
Yes.
And that's going to make her season, because I do love her book. It's going to make her season more delicious. And I hope they totally get rid of that.
Yes.
I just don't want to be an ambitious woman because I'm going to be a wife now.
Well, I mean, if he
lifts her up.
If they're throwing
the rules, if Penn gets to stay Lady Whistledown, she should get to be some sort of teacher or something.
That's what I was going to say. If they're going to be throwing the rules of the ton out, if they're saying this is now period fantasy and not, why can't she go to university? I want her to go to university. I'm excited. I want her to go to university.
But going to live with Sir Philip, who knows as much as he does. She is going to university. It's just not necessarily a subject she was wanting to learn. But she, just like me, she is attracted to somebody.
You know what's
who
really
knows
funny?
A lot about it.
The book that she pretends to be reading when she's instead reading about all the fanatic female women's rights stuff. Wasn't it like flower pressing or something? It was to do with flowers in some regard.
Well, the one was grooming dogs. I know that.
No, the first one before that one, I'm pretty sure it was something to do with flowers or something. And he's like, when have you ever?
Yeah, because she said she was gonna go press flowers.
Yes,
like she was gonna go do a class with Penelope.
Which that is one of the big moments from the book, is that Sir Philip gives her pressed flowers.
That's awesome.
What
if they turn that into a kismet thing? Like he is a teacher, and like he teaches classes like how to press flowers, how to identify flowers, and he doesn't discriminate. He doesn't. If a lady wants to learn, a lady can learn. If a man wants to learn, a man can learn.
Yeah,
and he's never discriminated against that, and then that's something she comes to admire. I think that would be good. Mark it in your book, Netflix and Shondaland.
Yeah, use a pressed flower. Put it in your book.
But what if he was the teacher of that class and she had made it up, like the class existed, but she made up that she was going? Wouldn't that be?
I'm cutting off the tangent. Okay, we're an hour 33 in. I need to get my son.
I know. I was trying to go back a couple of times, and you kept me going.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so Samadani now. Samadani, the guy who does everything right.
We're not even at Samadani yet, buddy. Francesca and
they're
John
sitting in silence. Okay.
Francesca and John sit on the couch together. At first, Francesca is facing him, and then when it becomes apparent that they aren't going to talk, she turns to face outwards again with a slight smile, content in the silence. And I know that they're trying to convey that they're comfortable in silence. But I personally found this scene a bit stupid. Like, if you just enjoyed silence, you could just marry anyone and it wouldn't be important who. They have to bond on some level other than just liking silence. Like, you have to actually like each
But
other.
but I think they are bonding. I think the whole point is that they are communicating so much without saying anything, much like Colin and Penn do their best
Mm,
communicating when they just look across the room. But they're not looking across the room. And I think that that moment, that smirk and smile before she turns, that's the, you know me so well. You know what I
I,
mean? Like they have this instant camaraderie, and I'm not going to say chemistry, I say camaraderie. And I think
yeah,
that the reason she jumps on him, she does have a
metaphorically.
love for him, metaphorically. I mean, she does have a love for him, but it's
Well,
an easy choice because they're so similar.
the Bridgerton gods clearly agree with me because even Gregory proclaims that she does not speak to him. Classic Eloise says, I am in awe. I thought one had to
Yeah.
use wit and banter to dissuade a suitor, but simple silence is radically more effective. Bloody Eloise, always
One of
missing
the
the
best
point.
lines in the whole
Always
series.
missing
The
the point.
whole series.
Eloise is always missing the point and applying her own feelings and assumptions to the
Mm-hmm.
situation. She thinks
But
that she's trying
that
to
is,
dissuade her. Him, sorry.
if I was going to pick any line, when you say pick a line for every character that they
Yeah.
say that fully conveys their character
Yes.
in one line, for me, this would be hers.
Yes.
This line is so perfectly written for Eloise. It is chef's kiss for writing. This line is
Yes.
amazing.
This is why I've put so many notes on this one scene because honestly, I love the interactions between the different siblings because then we have Hyacinth, who's
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more astute than her siblings and says perhaps they are enjoying themselves. Violet chimes in, but how will they know each other if they do not speak? And he comes to call without having had a formal introduction first. Personally, a valid fear. I see why Violet got off onto the wrong foot with John. He came in rules of not priority, propriety.
Propriety.
Oh rules of propriety be damned.
Propriety.
Inviting himself to sit didn't show much respect to Violet, and then doesn't even deign to get to know her daughter. Like from if you look at this from Violet's point of view, you have a man who's shown up. He's skipped all of the rules that he should have done. He's invited himself in. He has barely showed Violet the respect. Like when Francesca invited him in, that's an assumption, that he can come in. He didn't wait for Violet to actually invite him in. Yes, come in, of course. Let me seat you here. Tell me about there was no interaction with them at all. It was straight to sitting down with Francesca. And keep in mind, he's had no introduction to Violet either, who's supposed to be his mother-in-law, and at this point is the most not highest person in the room, but like that is the authority in the room at this point. And I just feel like he kind
Gregory
of,
is the authority in the
you know what I'm saying.
Samadani does it correctly.
Yes.
Gregory is the authority in the room. Violet did not want Gregory to be the authority. That's why she
No.
tried to get Colin downstairs.
But so like I can see why Violet, and we talked about this so much before with Adjua, with Lady D and her brother. When you start off on the wrong foot and you get a certain perception of someone, it is kind of hard sometimes to put your feelings aside on the matter and to see it for what it is rather than seeing it through the lens of your feelings.
Right. And this is kind of following that whole seeing and blindness. Like she
Yes.
is so blinded by being affronted that he completely broke all the rules.
Yeah.
She is so blinded by this moment that she doesn't see the real him later. Like she doesn't understand that this is out of character because this is the first time she's met him.
Yes.
Right. So she's blinded for the rest of the time until she truly understands that Francesca loves him.
Yes.
She's completely blinded by this first impression because this first impression is completely out of character for him, but she doesn't know that.
But I
She has
think
no
that's
clue.
I think that's what her kind of fear is like how I was saying about how when you're in love with someone, a lot of the rules get broken and you kind of just barrel in, whereas he isn't breaking the rules that she wants him to break. Like, if you're going to break the rules for my daughter, don't let them be these rules. These are the wrong rules to be breaking, sir. So I can.
She doesn't see. She's not seeing how her. Because think about all the conversations she's had with Francesca. I'm gonna let the queen make. I'm gonna do dances in order,
Yeah.
like of who asked first, or do it in alphabetical order, because
yeah.
you know she just can't make the decision, so she's creating an arbitrary ordering system
Yes.
that seems orderly, kind of like how
Yes.
Violet's naming the way they were.
Yeah.
So I think that she's not seeing this as a bold move because it's not orderly. Because, and she knows, like, Francesca's jumping on this because it's easy, because they're similar, and she wants Francesca to have this epic love, this thing that shakes her up, like, because with Violet, love shook her up. With all of her kids, look what Antony got shook,
Yes.
right? Daphne went from being Little Miss Perfect,
or it makes you question
totally disorderly.
Like it makes you question everything that you know, and that's like, as somehow when we were saying before about Colin and Penn was just too easy. This is too easy. I don't think they're actually putting in the
Colin and Penn are not easy, and I think she is so excited for them in the moment. But how would Violet have reacted if she had known her son had entered that ballroom and interrupted their dance without knowing if a proposal had already happened or not, and then ran after the carriage?
I think she would still be for it.
I think she would still be for it, but I think she would be having a conversation with Colin.
Yes, she would say,
he jeopardized the entire family. He jeopardized Penn.
She would say, I'm glad that you got what you wanted and that we have dear Penelope in our lives now. But could you not have gone about it just a little bit differently, son? Could you not have spared the family?
Dear.
Yes.
But she would have been like, yeah, got what I wanted. I mean, what you wanted.
Like, I think where Violet is concerned, where true love is involved, the ends almost always exclusively justify the means.
Yeah, justify the means, yeah.
Yeah. So
and she's not seeing that here with John because she doesn't know him. She doesn't know that this is love. She's not seeing that instant.
I wonder whether this is also why she likes Lord Samudani a little bit more, because he is so outgoing and so friendly, and she thinks that maybe he can shake up her daughter out of that comfort zone a little bit more than John. So just then.
And she's a hypocrite because he's just as similar to Francesca in the fact that there's the 7 siblings and everything else. And she wants that to work, but she doesn't want John to work because they're just too similar.
Like, the funny thing is I actually think that John would be a better match for the Eloises of the world, where they would calm them a little bit sometimes. And I mean, Sir Philip is actually very similar to John, just not quite as quiet, but he is also incredibly quiet. And he's constantly in the book like, can this girl just stop talking?
Well, and this is going to be a tangent, but it's going to be a small one. So here's what's funny. Like, Colin is always saying, can you just not be so you to Eloise? And then he ends up marrying Penelope, who he doesn't want to be like Eloise, but she is like Eloise. And then Eloise is always telling Colin he needs to shut up about his special interests. Like, oh, he's still talking about his travels. And then she ends up falling in love with a guy who can't stop talking about plants.
Yeah, it is ironic.
They end up kind of getting with, in a way, like the thing that's the bane of their existence in their family. They end up marrying somebody very similar.
They became the bane of their existence, but the object of desires. Just then, Footman John comes into the room So just then, Footman John comes into the room nervously to announce the arrival of Lord Samudani, who also does not follow polite code and barges in without waiting for the proper announcements to be made about his arrival and a subsequent acceptance of him as a caller. Very pompous men today, I wrote. Very pompous, very assumption-y.
Well, and he's a Marquess, and they knew he was coming.
I know, but still.
Think about it. Their cook came to his kitchen.
I know, but
I don't see that so much as a faux pas as what John did, because John didn't know a single name of anyone in the room, and he didn't give his name at the door.
But it still wasn't polite either, because you could tell how nervous.
No, he was exerting dominance, I almost wonder if he knew he saw another carriage there, and he knew, because how did John get there?
Yeah,
so he knew there was competition in there, and he was going to come in and steal the show.
I mean, I do appreciate that they were quite civil about it, unlike other men of the ton. So at least Lord Samudani takes the time to make proper greetings to Violet first, and when she goes to fetch him a pastry, instead of going straight to Francesca, he takes the time to introduce himself rather charmingly to her siblings, greeting Hyacinth by name, and
in order.
Yes, And yes, whilst that was the proper title, that she was not on the marriage mat yet, and therefore not referred to as Miss Bridgerton like Eloise, it also tells me that he listens to Francesca enough to learn her siblings' names. How else would he know
Yeah.
Hyacinth's name? He had to either have heard it from
Well, he
Francesca,
studied her.
because he
Yeah.
said, well, I don't even think that the information could have come from one of his servants, because he says, and you must be Miss Hyacinth or Hyacinth, because he's like, well, clearly, like,
Yeah, but the queen would know. And I think he's getting a lot of his info from her because she's trying to make the match.
the way that he said it seemed like Francesca had talked about Hyacinth, and he's like, oh, well, clearly this is Hyacinth. You know, that was just the way that, and so I actually really like Lord Samadani. Like, obviously,
Yeah,
I really
he's very amiable.
He is very
That's a
amiable.
word for that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's because he kind of almost doesn't have his own personality, because I think like being from such a big family.
I think he does though. Like, he's very outgoing, very charming. I vibe.
He's outgoing and charming, but he almost has, he doesn't talk about his own interests beyond having the same number of siblings as her,
but I mean,
and wanting to have a big family. He doesn't talk about himself at all. And she's somebody who is so passionate about music, and I think that's his downfall, is he's just a dude. He's just a regular old dude. All he wants is a family. He wants lots of kids, but there's nothing that distinguishes him. And John doesn't necessarily talk a lot about himself, but he has such a clear personality of, you know, he's quiet, he's introspective. I don't like social situations. Like, he's readable, whereas Samadani kind of, but what I do like is, like, Samadani is, the word was there. He's poised. He almost is like Daphne way, where everything is
bred to be a perfect suitor
and perfected. Yes. And, you know, introducing himself to Gregory first in that group, he's the male.
Yes.
And then introducing Miss Bridgerton is Eloise, because she's the next oldest, so she gets the title Miss Bridgerton. Any kid, if there was even more sisters below her, it would be
by name,
like Miss Hyacinth, Miss Jasmine, whatever, you know. He did everything perfectly. And then when he went to go eat the pastry, although it's obviously a pastry that is not the most delicate to eat, kind of always see,
yes,
he really does his best, and he does it with gusto, because he knows she went to a lot of trouble to make it.
Yes.
So he shows enjoyment of it.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, I think all that is rehearsed. He comes off very rehearsed. That's what I'm saying. Like, we don't get to see his true personality because he's got this armor on. He's very rehearsed.
But so is that
too hard. He's trying too hard. Yeah. He's kind of trying too hard, and John's not trying at all. And for Francesca, that's perfect. Like, she doesn't want to try either. She just wants it to be easy.
I mean, I appreciate the fact that he tries. I appreciate the fact that he's trying not to make a mess. I appreciate the fact that he clearly listens enough to know her siblings' names, that he's showing her mother the appropriate amount of respect. And I think that Francesca is a little bit in her like emo phase of her life, where she's like, fuck mum, I'm gonna do what I want. You know, she's like in that angsty, like, I'm a grown woman, I'm a woman, I'm gonna make my own choices, and I'm gonna listen to anything that isn't what you're telling me to do. I kind of just get that angsty vibe from her.
I think Francesca has very much read her mother, that her mother is ready for romance. She is living vicariously through Francesca. Something she has not done with Daphne or even Eloise. This is different. Francesca's different because she wants romance. She's trying to create it through Francesca. I mean, a lot of people took the way she watched Samadani eat that pastry as sexual. Like, oh my gosh, she's so horny, she would even do it with Samadani. I didn't see that at all. I think she is so excited for this whole dance of courtship that she's playing this fantasy out to her daughter. And she is enjoying that it's working. Like, watching him eat that cake, all that work. She put so much work into the planning of that. That was her moment. That wasn't sexual at all to me. She was glad he enjoyed it, and she felt like everything was going right.
Well, it's the same as planning a
successful John.
Yeah, it's the same as planning it like a successful ball. This is what she was bred to do her whole entire life: to be married, to have children, marry those children off to advantageous matches, but specifically for her love matches. And she's like, yes, everything is going exactly. Yes, we have John, that's an outlier in my plans, but everything else is going exactly as I wish it to. He's pleased, he's happy, he's doing all the right things. This is my choice for her, and it's going exactly how I want it to. So only he eats his pastry, and then only then does he now approach Francesca. He calls her Miss Francesca, a little less formal than Miss Bridgerton, but not quite as informal as a first name on its own. Lord Samudani then turns to John and sort of gets friends to facilitate like a formal introduction between them. See, Debling, this is how it's done.
But he's also ordering Francesca around. Like, he was a little bit more assertive in how he said her name.
Mm-hmm.
And he was maneuvering. Like, he came off very commanding to me here. And
he is an earl.
I mean, he had to, yes, and he had to facilitate the introduction. He wanted to know who his competition was, for sure.
But he's not. But it didn't seem like a dick measuring contest to me. Like, they were both quite respectful of each other.
That's not what I'm saying. I think that though with Francesca not wanting to do what her mother wants, here's yet another person trying to force her to do something maybe she doesn't want to do. She definitely wants to go her own way, I think, and has a little bit of pathological demand avoidance. So the moment he got like this, I think that's like strike two, dude. You know what I mean? Like, you want 8 kids? I ain't doing that. Oh, now you're going to be like that? Strike two. Yeah. So I think that he's trying so hard. He's not reading the room. He's a little blind to Francesca. He thinks they're perfect on paper, and that makes it perfect, and he doesn't. But he's trying way too hard that he's missing a lot of
So John has a very civil introduction with him that announces that he is taking his leave so that Lord Samudani can have his time to get to know Francesca too. John, it seems, wants to be chosen, not because he played a game or was anyone but himself. He wants to be chosen for their connection, and I love him for this.
Well, and he understands too that in social structures, and we haven't seen that much in Bridgerton because of long lines that seem to go up for the diamond of the season. But in all reality, when you have a situation like this where it's a lesser titled person, kind of like what Danbury said, where the lesser titled men show up first, but then the higher titled men come in later. Well, when they happen to come into the lesser titled man is to bow out.
Like, and we saw that happen.
John bows out.
We saw that happen in season 2 with Anthony. He was very much playing his title card.
Yeah, trying to get to the front of the line.
Yes. So John takes his leave, and Lord Samudani finally gets to try the millefeuille. Ironically, it seems the more he gets along with her family, the less interested she is in him. She doesn't want someone to fit in with her family. She wants someone to escape her from her family.
Yes. And I think that's a juxtaposition with Penn, because I think that Francesca really does want to be separated from her family. She spent a lot of her formative years now separated from her family.
I think she's just exhausted by them.
She needs the quiet. She needs the quiet. She is exhausted by how many people. Whereas Penelope thinks she wants to escape her family. She really wants to do is break the cycle.
Yes.
If this is going to remain toxic, I want out. But if there was any way, shape, or form of pairing, Penelope would choose repairing first, because ultimately she does love her family. And she loves spending time with them. Because if you think about all the seasons, whereas Francesca would hide herself in her room, Penelope didn't hide herself in her room most of the time. She sat on her settee and read. She still wanted the company. She just didn't want the barbs, snipe, demeaning words and stuff.
Yes.
So that's the difference between them. Francesca really, really wants to be far away from her family. And I don't think in a bad way. I just think she needs that much chaos.
I think she wants to love them from afar,
Yes. I love you, but I need lots of break. I mean, I really do have a very large family. When all of us get together,
well, my brothers
and 20 nieces and nephews would be a lot of people in the room.
My brother's very much that
tiring.
way. Yeah, my brother's very much that way. Like, he loves us. He just forgets to contact us. And then when we do talk, like, it's all good and there's no bad feelings there. He just sucks at communication and likes his space. And I think it's also very confronting when you are around people that know you so well and you want to please them. And you kind of, when there's a lot of people around and you, like, for you and me, especially because I think myself I know that I'm a chameleon and I kind of blend myself into everyone else and I can be whoever and whatever I need to be. But when it's around that many people, you're like trying to toe the line of, okay, I need to be funny for this cousin, but I need to be respectful for this auntie. Oh, but I'm still a mum. Oh, and I still
And
have to
that's
be
where
a
our
wife.
multiple personalities really get
Oh,
tired. Yeah.
like, I mean, and I think I've towed the line of that really well my entire life, but I'm getting a little bit older now, and it depends on the group of
Oh, wait till
people.
you're my age, because I seriously am so tired of it. I showed up today to this baby shower, straight up, my polka dots, my polka dot, pair
Yeah.
eyewear, my flowers in my hair. I'm almost 49, but that's me. I'm vibrant colors. I'm bold prints. I love that. That's my style, that's my vibe. And I kept saying today I'm just a vibe. And my sister is very, muted, and I mean she looks like a country living magazine,
She
you know.
has dulled her sparkle to fit the ideal aesthetic of what
To
society expects
be
her to
to
be.
be perfect in society, she's dulled her sparkle a little bit. And even down to the cars, I think it's so funny because, and yes, I got my car second, but I test drove a Trax a million years ago, and I always said I wanted that car. She also has a Trax, but hers is silver. Mine is burnt orange.
Yeah.
And we show up, we park, like we end up parking next to each other. She actually rode with me, her man, and he drove her car, but our cars are parked next to each other. And I'm like, it's so funny how our cars even tell the story of our lives, because we're very close in age. We were Irish based, a year and a half apart, and very similar, raised very similarly. Here we got our two cars.
We got
Yeah.
two.
But I was like, you got such a boring color, and I've got
We've done, yeah. I'm exhausted and my brain's starting to melt, to be honest.
And this
And
one
I
has tangented a lot more than the last one, I think,
Yeah.
for that reason.
Well,
I think we're
and
both
I
tired.
said the more tired we get, and I said the second recordings we do are always less polished because we're tired, and
Yeah.
I don't have the brain capacity to be monitoring myself as heavily, and I need to get Ezra to bed in 24 minutes, and I need to eat dinner. But today, gentle listeners, we will leave it there and continue on next week's episode. If you have anything in particular you would like us to cover, or any Bridgerton knowledge you would like to share, please head to our Facebook page, The Ladies Bridgerton. And if you're enjoying our podcast, if you are enjoying our podcast, please click follow on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you are listening. Additionally, we are now on Patreon. If you're wanting any exclusive content, head over to our Patreon page, which is linked somewhere. I need to get onto linking that in more places for people to be able to find. We are also now on YouTube, so please head over there for exclusive content that is only on YouTube. We will be doing things that are exclusive to the app. Because they actually
The format. Yeah.
yeah, yep. So yeah, if you're wanting any extra content, it won't be our regular episodes. It is just like fun, like mash games or us ranking suitors or things like that. We'll hopefully be doing weekly
And you gave me
episodes.
the idea today. I want to do the promo thing where they had to draw each other. I think that would
Oh,
be fun.
I don't.
We're both not, I don't draw well either, but I think
You
that
know
would
what?
be awesome.
I feel like Kay does. I feel like Kay draws really well. So just looking
So thank
through.
you for listening to the musings of two higher mad women
Yours truly, Tash the Kiwi.
and Lady Patty.